Hi, everyone. My name is Isar Mostafa-Najad. I'm founder and CEO at Nalu Scientific. We're a small business focusing on designing advanced microchips and microelectronics, mainly for government applications. Our end users are the scientific community, national labs, universities that are using our microchips for measuring time down to a picosecond resolution, essentially a trillionth of a second. So very precise measurements, they use our microchips. And the idea to start Nalu Scientific came to me while working at the university again. So, and that's when I started the company in 2015. So we've been in business for almost 10 years now, 9.
So OIC, I'm going to use that as a shorthand. The goal is to help bring together the community, especially the student entrepreneurs, professors who are also doing breakthrough research in their labs, or maybe they might have an idea they want to figure out their patent. And so OIC helps to bring these folks together. There are 2 core programs that they have, the Patents to Program, which really to help to shape the patents. And so a lot of the researchers, which Olga can share a bit more about her experience in that program, but basically they've had 13 researchers that's participating in the program. They're running their second cohort now, and that's an avenue to get into the program and get support there. Another one, which I'm more closely working with, is the High Tide program. So they had about 100 different companies, and these companies kind of very early stage. So High Tide is like an incubator program that provides support.
The history of the company, Mackay Ocean Engineering. So, it's been around for 50 years, so it was obviously around before I was born. And our founders were very much the entrepreneurial, what really kicked them off was, and it kind of ties in a lot with sort of, good ways to leverage opportunities and get funding for deep tech here in Hawaii is, there was an opportunity with the state of Hawaii to do a deep water cable project. And they wanted to, in about early 80s, they wanted to lay deep water power cables between the islands. And at the time, nobody knew how to do it. They didn't know if it could be done, how you could control it, all of that type of problems. And so our founders were just gung-ho about it. They just kind of committed and said, we'll figure this out. Luckily, they did. And it ended up leveraging into more federal funding, which just allowed the whole program to grow and eventually become a commercial product. And in kind of reference to what you're saying about global impact, so that product is now used on about 90% of the ships around the world that lay the internet and telecom cables across the oceans. And so it's a very niche, specialized field, but it's a high-value field.
So, one thing that we deal with in deep tech is because it takes such a long time for the prototype to be built, by the time we build it, it may not be addressing the same market that we had in mind to begin with. So one thing that is happening now with the greater physiological sensing that, I have been working on it for, as you mentioned, for medical application, for smart buildings. Actually, the first commercial deployment is going to be for in-vehicle, in-cabin monitoring. And this is something that I think 5 years ago, nobody thought would be a driving application. So I think the challenge for us is really to kind of look forward and try to figure out what that market is going to be. And, it's almost impossible to predict that. So I think really the best message I can give is we have to stay flexible. So maybe what we had originally in mind is not going to be the application that is going to be successful. And we have to be able to somehow pivot and capture the market.
Well, what gets me excited is the sense of purpose that we are able to create here, when every once in a while I'm sitting on the plane next to somebody, or I'm at a conference and I'm telling people, hey, I'm making microchips and we're designing microchips in Hawaii, and everybody's like, what? Why would you do that? Why aren't you in the Bay Area and do that there? They do it day in, day out. And I'm like, yeah, of course, but we're the only one in Hawaii that can do this, and we're doing it right now. So that gets people's attentions. People forget who we are, where we are from, or what kind of food we eat, what language we speak, but nobody forgets Aloha shirt. So that's kind of a brand that I've been learning to cultivate and learn how to use to our advantage. And so when I tell people, they forget Nalu Scientific, but nobody forgets that we're in Hawaii. So that's been kind of an advantage point for us. But that also has, on the surface, but also deeper, it has created a sense of purpose. And that's one thing that I've been learning from my mentors, including Olga over the years, that if you're able to think about the why and create that sense of purpose, you can achieve so much more, and life will be fulfilling a lot more, not just for myself, but also for people that I work for us and work with us. And so microchips, we started with designing microchips, but eventually we realized that we need to get into the application space. And so it kind of morphed into different things. And one of them was a NOAA project, National Oceanic Atmospheric Institute project, that we used our microchip to miniaturize an underwater or oceanographic kind of LiDAR system, reduce its size and power consumption and price point. And they were going to use it for measuring phytoplankton in the water, which is kind of the base of the food chain, basically. So we were really excited to work on it, and we did work on it, and we were about to close that project, and we have some good results, publications, and everything else. So we're vertically integrating our way into something higher value and also impactful, you know. Another one is a NASA project that we just recently got funded, and that's to use one of our microchips for a lunar lander that hopefully will be used in the next 3 to 4 years, essentially. So we're quite excited about that. These seem wildly unrelated, but the underlying thing is that we know exactly what our microchips are capable of doing and what impact they can have. So we go and learn and become subject matter experts in those end-use areas. And that's the sense of purpose that, you know, we feel that if you have that sense of purpose, you can be driven to get there. And the third one is medical imaging. Recently got a National Institute of Health, SBIR essentially, to, it's a multi-year, multi-million-dollar project to repurpose one of our microchips for positron emission tomography imaging, essentially reduce the size of the device, the imaging device it's used for cancer detection, essentially, and create and increase its resolution so you can detect cancer via imaging methodology earlier.